Good evening, everyone. I'm Councillor Marina Sharma, and I'll be chairing the Brentford and Isworth, not Stoll, Brentford and Syon Area Forum this evening. And I'd just like to say welcome to everybody. We have a quite full agenda today, and so I would just like to say that if we can, we'll be having questions, bite-sized questions with our presentation today, sort of as we go, so that we don't overrun, and so we've got plenty of time in our open forum. I would like to just say that we've had apologies from Councillor Catherine Dunn and also Councillor Max Mosley for lateness, but they will be here very shortly. Yes, so as I've said, I'm Councillor Marie Sharma from Brentford East, and I'd just like to now invite my fellow councillors to introduce themselves.
I'm Dan, I'm a councillor in Syon and Brentford Lock.
I'm Emma Yates and I'm councillor for Brentford West.
I'm Theo Lesson, independent in Syon and Brentford Lock.
Thank you. I would also like to ask members to note the monitoring officer's guidance on members' declarations of interest, and if there are any. None for me. And I would now like to introduce, there has been a slight change to the agenda. Items 2 and 3 are together within the agenda, and so I'd like to now introduce Rob Francis and Tom Brooks, and also Shyama Trivedi, to now do their presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Yes, my name's Tom Brooks, so I'm the regeneration economic growth team. It changes from time to time. My job title is, it's just changed as well, growth and economy manager. So I'm going to talk briefly about our business case for growth, our industrial strategy. So this first slide, if it can go up, it really, if you look at the actual parts of this jigsaw here, which we're calling the business case for growth, and what I want to talk about is inclusive growth. So by that, I mean the borough has a very mixed picture in terms of its economy. It's a very successful economy, an economy of something like 15 billion GVA, but we also have we have a lot of differences between the rich and the poor, and the places that are doing well and the places that are not doing well. So in terms of what we're trying to do as a borough, we've created this business case for growth, and just to explain how our strategies work and intertwine, we've got our Ambitious for Hounslow corporate plan, which has within it our various strategies, and under that we've actually got prosperity in place, which is our framework for our economy, and below that we've got our business case for growth, which really drills into the nuts and bolts, the data, and what we want to do as a borough to actually get good growth and inclusive growth within our places. So all these number 1 to 8 is not actually a pathway in terms of these are happening in sequence. This is what happens if we actually achieve what we want to in terms of inclusive growth. So in terms of our business case for growth, what we actually found when we launched our business case for growth and went through the process of putting it together is that our economy could, by 2030, in fact, double or more than double in size if things go as we would like them to, and that could include a number of new homes, but also 18,000 new jobs, which would be amazing for the borough. And in terms of places, what we identified were 2 particular areas where we would be focusing a lot of projects and a lot of that growth activity, one being the Golden Mile, which we'll be talking about in more detail in a second, the other being Feltham in the west of the borough. And I think hopefully most of the people in the room tonight know that it's the centenary of the Golden Mile, or the Great West Road's opening in 1925. So we thought that this would be a great time to actually hook a lot of that activity and really talk about this as a place. We've got connectivity momentum. Obviously, Hounslow as a borough is fantastically connected, especially when you talk about Heathrow into central London, but we're really trying to make the case and lobby for transport improvements on the Golden Mile, but also to introduce the West London Orbital, and I believe our transport colleagues are going to go into that. Growth drivers here, we have got particular sites of interest, and we've just listed a couple here that are in the west of the borough, but also we're very keen to push the story of our growth sectors. So we've got a fantastic creative economy in the borough. Something like 45% of London's broadcast and media programming jobs are within the Golden Mile, and we can really tell a great story about that and actually champion inward investment in the borough. A great example of how that is actually, you know, we can't take all the credit, but it's fantastic to see things like the Gillette factory coming forward as a 6 soundstage studio, and that will actually bring a whole lot of jobs and further that creative economy that we have. I think everybody should know that Hounslow, and as most boroughs are, have climate at the forefront of everything we do and a sustainability agenda, so that will always flow through our activities within the economy. So, this is Shammersby.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Shama Trivedi. I'm the head of area regeneration for the London Borough of Hounslow. Here to really sort of build on what Tom has just said around our focus this year and going forwards on the Golden Mile, building upon the centenary celebrations. But also, we've had a number of development proposals come forward for this particular swathe of geography, and it's just an opportune time for us to really be able to look at it much more holistically, particularly as it's formerly always known as industrial employment economic zone. And from the development proposals that are coming forward, you know, with a large focus on it being a mixed-use community coming forward, and therefore we need to plan for it in that way. So we're looking at it in a much more holistic way. As you know, we've Tom will talk about this more, but we've had a wonderful summer of celebration around the Golden Mile, really incorporating sort of local groups and the engagement to help us celebrate this anniversary. And so we give thanks to all of you because there was real tangible engagement from our stakeholders and our residents. And we had a series of events that enable us to look back and celebrate the legacy as well as look forward as to what the next 100 years will look like. Yeah, I'm not going to take Tom's thunder. We should really...
I mean, those are pictures of some events that took place over the summer. Well, the top right is around our partnership with the London Festival of Architecture, but I'll go into some of those events shortly.
So I talked a little bit about the changes we're beginning to see, and it's come at a really opportune time in that we have this huge percentage of media sectors that are calling the Golden Mile home, and we really want to be able to understand that better in line with the new development proposals that are coming forward, so that it's a much more sort of place-based approach to the Golden Mile. We're realising that, you know, where we had formerly associated mostly sort of commercial and employment space around the Golden Mile, we need to plan proactively for the communities that are going to come forward. And an awful lot of work is being invested in studying that so that we're planning proactively. And in order to do that, we've set ourselves quite a large and ambitious task to undertake a strategic case for investment, which basically means that we're going to undertake a study with focused attention on the interventions needed to really unlock the potential of the Golden Mile. So currently we have an economic and spatial visioning piece of work that's taking place that will build our evidence case for our business case. And we're also undertaking some sort of the access, transport, assessment in and around the Golden Mile to make sure that those strategic drivers that Tom talked about earlier are well connected, so the area of influence and the movability and the permeability is really considered as part of the strategic case for investment. So we've got external consultants that are building up this picture for us based on research and data, and it's upon that intellectual collateral that we'll be able to build on some engagement from yourselves. Again, quite similar to how we did in the summer, but this time going into depth as to what does it actually mean for realising the growth potential? What are the interventions that are needed to really make the Golden Mile a known place, a place for people to visit, stay, work and play? So the outputs of this are going to be able to culminate into a set of project briefs, which will then encompass what those interventions are that are needed to unlock the potential, and that will be our strategic case that we go out to the market, to the private sector, to central government, a little bit cap in hand, but really look at us, look at this wonderful amount of growth that we can realise here, but we can't do it alone. Over to you, Tom.
Yeah, as Shama said, the summer was jam-packed full of activity that celebrated the centenary of the Golden Mile. So thank you to everybody who went, took part, organised these events. It really was. I think something like 3,000 people in total. I mean, a lot of those actually went to Brentford Voices launch, which we were proud to be a partner of, that happened at Boston Manor Park on the 30th of May. That really was a fantastic event. But there were another 18 events, I think it was, that took place in that month of June, including the cavalcade on the Golden Mile, which I hope some of you saw. That was Duke of London in Brentford who actually put that together. There was the University of West London put on a number of events at social hackathons and discussed a lot of interesting things with students and other members and stakeholders of the community. A central part of this London Festival of Architecture were 4 particular hub events that we not only were celebrating the centenary of the Golden Mile, but also using it as an opportunity to talk to residents and people that had an interest in the borough about what the future could be. We're celebrating the 100 years that have happened, but what could happen in the next 50 or 100 years. So those hub events took place over consecutive Saturdays. One took place at JC Deco. I think we had a picture of that. Oh no, there's a picture of that there. You're in the sort of streetscape there, looking at the JC Deco furniture. Another took place at the former GSK building. Another at 27 Great West Road, the Sega building, and the final one took place at the Gillette factory. So over to Rob to talk a little bit more about how that engagement went.
Thanks. So I'm Rob Francis, I'm in the engagement team. So my interest is always how can we join up people who live in places, work in places with changes that might be happening around them. Just a bit of context, that picture at the bottom is not a plan for what happens on the Golden Mile, it's just a sketch someone did in one of those sessions. So those engagement meetings where people coming together thinking about what could the future involve, what's the kind of place we can imagine in future in decades to come. And just some of the headline themes that came out of those conversations, and they were pretty consistent, and they're not things you might be very surprised by. We see it in lots of conversation about development across the borough and elsewhere, but people talked about how do we green this space. We've got some great big sort of roads, barriers going through that area potentially. So how do we introduce greenery? Does that help to humanise the space? If people are going to be living here, how do we make it greener? How do we introduce more amenities, public services? Improving the M4, what does that look like? It's going to be there for a long time, presumably, but how do we make sure we can integrate development around it so that it feels like we are a neighbourhood, a place, not just a thoroughfare? Heritage came through a lot, the Art Deco buildings, the history of that route over the last 100 years. How can that inform and inspire what comes next was a theme that came out quite strongly. How do we make sure it's affordable, that people are living and working here who live locally now, want to stay in the area, as well as attracting others in from elsewhere? And transport, both sort of major transport connections, stations, we mentioned the West London Orbital, but also walking, cycling infrastructure to support that neighbourhood sort of living that we expect to emerge in the decades ahead. So the challenge for us now is how do we take this sort of stuff and play it back into communities to see what you think this means in practice? As an engagement practitioner, I'm always really conscious that people are bored of surveys. There'll always be a place for online engagement for those who can't come to events, who want to comment in a sort of quick and easy way. But this is a huge transformational project for this area, and we want to make sure that in the years ahead there's some really in-depth, sort of quite deep-rooted engagement we can do with you and your community groups, so that you're sort of really part of knitting this together as a collection of developments, not just developments that are individual. So there's an emerging Brentford Community Development Network, which some of you may know about, be part of. We talked to Brentford Voice recently about what could this mean? What could this ongoing in-depth engagement around new sites as they develop mean? One idea is that as project briefs come forward in the next few years, so plans for particular things we can do to intervene to make the space, realising the kind of vision that we're looking at, that we do that with you, that there's some co-design opportunities where we really work with community groups to say, what does the brief look like? What should we be expecting of developers here? So that rather than just commenting near the end in that sort of transactional way, that we're building something sort of from the start with groups. So there seems to be appetite for that for those we've talked to, and that's a thing we'll be sort of working on the next few years. Also probably worth Tom saying a bit about the Developers and Business Forum, because I think that also is about trying to join the dots between all these things.
The Developers Forum, which includes Hadley Property Group, McGrath Group, who own Great West House, Arelli, developers of 27 Great West Road, also have an interest with BlackRock and Reef, I believe, with the Larch Drive proposals that might come forward soon. But they were instigators. West London Business, who are a membership organisation that work with a lot of the corporates in West London, but they have relationships with Heathrow and Sky and other large blue chips, if you could say, bought these together, and obviously it was very key for the local authority to have a place at that table. But there are other businesses. It's not just a site for developers, the Golden Mile. There's Ajar Technology down Harlequin Avenue. Sky, of course, with 11,000 people or so on its campus, are a key stakeholder. So this has had a few meetings so far, and certainly they have an interest in working with the community as it goes forward and develops, but that is to be formalised, I'd say.
So just last bit from me on engagement before I hand back to Tom for the very final slide. So what I'll be asking people in the next couple of months is, if I can come and talk to groups locally about some of this as it's emerging, we want to share with you what's been coming through the summer engagement, the kind of themes I showed you in summary on the screen, but to start to think about what that might mean a bit more in some granularity. So if you're from a group that wants to have a conversation with me about that, please let me know. My email address is rob.francis at the Hounslow address. And Tom just wants to share one example of where we're trying to do that already, working with local groups to try and do something a bit more co-designed.
I mean, Brentford Voice should have been front and centre of this slide, so apologies to that organisation, Martin and Jim. But this, I think, is a fantastic project that's been in the offing for some time and is really gathering momentum thanks to the energy of Brentford Voice. And we started this presentation talking about inclusive growth, and although this isn't necessarily about jobs and certainly not about homes, it's certainly about inclusivity, better placemaking, and well, I should say what it is. I mean, I'm assuming that you might know that there's a raised embankment that runs along the side of Commerce Road, which is disused and overgrown, but through various studies and money that's come in from the council via other sources, feasibility studies have happened, and hopefully with fingers crossed in the next few months there will be a temporary access made in the middle of Commerce Road through where the business park is, for community groups, schools, etc., to, with Brentford Voice's help, and I think an emerging Friends of Beeline, go in there, understand more about nature, get their hands dirty, and actually create a living space for the people of Brentford to enjoy. So I think that's a lovely example of something that's happening right here and now.
So I think that's it from us. If questions at this point, is that useful?
Yes, if anyone has questions, please wait for the microphone.
Right first. My big concern is with all this developments going, I'm talking of the north side of Brentford, because Brentford High Street's had everything upon everything. What is happening with the consultation with contractors, because they're all going to be bidding for work, with the social value funds, because many years ago what happened was we had a lot of all the money of social value funds, and this is like Section 106 money where it's given to the community. We never got much of it. It goes around the borough. I think with these major works that are coming now, we should be getting some of this funding. We shouldn't be going around the borough. It should be being kept in Brentford. I know you're talking about schools and doctors. Not always is that. Sometimes the small little projects need to keep going. But where's all this money going to go on social value?
So a point taken and noted very well. I think it's really important to say that in terms of the planning development process, we can't influence the statute so much other than part of the rules and regulations are that it's at the LPA's gift to decide where in the borough, the local planning authority, to decide where is the most need, and therefore Section 106 and SIL is distributed where those priorities are seen fit. So developers in this particular geography would love to see the Section 106 monies just go in and around their own development proposal so that they can have that sort of transactional response, which is this is what we're investing in this particular area where we are developing and bringing opportunity. But actually, it's at the behest of the council and the local planning authority to decide where that section, the Section 106 and indeed the social value outcomes will be best gained. So point taken, we'll absolutely feed that back to the local planning authority, but the way the process works is that that's how the social value sort of prioritization is governed.
Thank you. Any more questions?
Thank you. Thank you very much for that presentation. So I like your place-based approach to the Golden Mile, but what measures do you have to ensure that this regeneration delivers jobs in Hounslow and opportunities in Hounslow and not just commercial growth? That's my first question. My second question, as someone who does not drive, how do you plan to connect the Golden Mile? So all the way from Boston Manor Road to Hatton Cross, there isn't a single bus that takes you around that area. So if you're taking the bus, you take the H91 from Brentford, the top of the road from Brentford, and then you have to change, and you have to walk for 10 minutes to get to Hounslow West to take the 428 to Hatton Cross. So that's not a very well-connected area. And my final question is, how will success of the Golden Mile be measured, the strategy? And how often will progress updates be shared with the residents? Thank you.
Thank you for those questions. On the buses, we might have to ask Mr. Heslock to come in, if that's okay, Rob. Measures of success in terms of growth and what we're trying to do for the Golden Mile to improve place. I think firstly, we're at this process, as Shama outlined, of actually creating a vision, working with the Developers Forum around that, and then from that will flow a case for investment and projects that we will go, Shama said, cap in hand. We will be talking to national government, to the GLA, to say we need significant funding to take these projects forward. I think whether or not we're successful in realising that funding and taking the projects forward will be a measure of success in itself. But I would say that possibly through the forum and interaction with the community that will come forward through the Golden Mile Developers Forum and the other forum that Rob mentioned, I can't remember. Yeah, I think it would probably be a good idea to actually take your question forward and actually work some sort of framework for feedback into those particular fora.
If I can just say something on the point about updates. So these are long-term projects. We're looking at years and decades of this stuff happening. So which is why it's, I think, an opportunity to do some really interesting, in-depth engagement with the people who live around here at the moment. On the updates front, I think we discussed this last week actually. Working in Feltham recently, we set up an engagement sort of portal using the Let's Talk platform, which had different ways of engaging, but also had information about projects and sites. As they come forward, we'll start using that. I think we could do the same thing here, where we just have a website, which is not just online, we have stuff we do physically as well, but a place you can go just to get updates. So every few months, as things change, things are uploaded there. There are links to planning applications. There are write-ups of engagement we're doing. Perhaps community partners who are part of that engagement can have a part on the website as well. So we want to make it sort of an ongoing, not a broadcast, but a kind of two-way conversation that we're having, so you're up to speed with the things as they're live. Anything else to add, folks?
And your other question was, the difficulty of getting around. So just before we bring Rob, our expert, in to answer the question, just to reassure you, as part of the evidence base that we're building, we've brought specialist consultants on board called Urban Movement, who are actually assessing that workability and movement and access points in and around the Golden Mile. So where we're looking at development proposals coming forward and how we knit all of that together, how do people get from the different series of developments that are coming forward and connect those together? How do you get to other parts of more strategic station or satellite sites out of the Golden Mile and in? So we're having a specific transport piece of work to actually undertake this kind of assessment so that we can identify where is the greatest need and where are those transport and connection interventions that are needed. But I'll speak to you about buses, Rob.
You're speaking later.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we could
no,
do
I'm
that.
speaking next, so I can pick up on that because that
Brilliant.
feeds into what I was going to say. So I'll pick up on that.
Okay, Alderman Collins.
Thank you. First of all, can I say that the last batch of replies to the questions from the back have actually slightly worried me, because I think people like me and many others of my age will be long dead and gone before we see the real growth of the Golden Mile. But be more practical than that. First of all, can I ask you, please do not forget that there are a number of people in this borough, between 18 and 22%, who have no access to the website or anything like it. Can I ask that you use your conversation through the community hubs and indeed the disability groups around, so that you've got angles coming in from all strands of the community so that they feel connected. Going to the Golden Mile itself, and a question that the lady and Julie raised as well, there are a number of tourist attractions and leisure activities off the Golden Mile, and I don't think that they're exploited half enough. I don't think we actually portray the value that we've got in this end of the borough, and in Brentford in particular, of things which could actually bring, sorry, I got the flash of the light and past, apologise, that actually would bring activity to the borough, would bring money to local communities and businesses, but also would actually enhance what you're trying to do. But what worries me is it seems at this moment in time that this is a series of pipe dreams without any end goal. But can I also make just one plea of the Golden Mile? Right up until the end of the 80s, probably the beginning of the 90s, people flocked from December the 1st to January the 6th to the Golden Mile because it was a sea of festiveness in terms of Christmas trees and other kinds of stuff like that, which was actually money to the local communities. And this is something that you've got to exploit what you've actually got, and that Golden Mile at Christmas, it certainly boosted the economies of the local area. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to now ask Councillor Lambert and then Councillor Dennison with their questions.
Okay, I've got a few things that I'm a bit heated up about. I've never seen either of you before. I've seen Tom before. You weren't at any of the many consultations that I went to on the Golden Mile. Didn't see it. Oh, okay. Well, I don't remember seeing you. I'm old, so I forget things. But I think the wider point is, you know, the main thing that came up in the things that I collected on the Golden Mile was that it's not in Brentford. There is no connection with Brentford. GSK was a separate town with its own restaurants and shops. So one of the things I was excited about GSK was that it would help to bring people into Brentford. It didn't, not at all. And part of the thing there is that the connections between north of the A4 and Brentford is very poor. Years ago, I went with many council officers down the canal path, and we had plans to improve it. Nothing was done. Many years ago, I walked along the A4 talking about the horrible environment in the middle of the A4. We had plans to do something about it. We never did anything. So my fear, so we've got the B-line. I think the B-line is fantastic. My personal view is it should be a thoroughfare. Now, I don't think Brentford boys think that. I think it should be a nature. Well, and in any case, it's no good as a thoroughfare because it stops at the warehouses on the south side of the A4. It needs to go across the A4 some way or other. There was also discussion about some kind of bus service that links the Great West Road to the centre of Brentford. And you know, one of the things I'm saying is Sky run buses that go into Brentford and Chiswick. The West London University run buses that there's only one or two things that the TfL do that link Brentford. Now, on top of that, we've got a town centre in Brentford with no shops because the council is not letting the shops. We haven't got any shops.
Can we stick to the question, Guy? Can we stick to the agenda? We've got updates regarding Brentford shops a little later on. If we can just stick to the presentation, please.
I'll shut up then. That's what you want.
Well, you might shut up, Guy, but I ain't. Just picking up on Guy's point. Great presentation. You're talking about community involvement, but actually there was nothing in that presentation that actually picked up on the very many previous discussions about the Golden Mile and the issues and ideas that Guy is actually saying, whatever happened to them. You know, these were important discussions. We believed, those of us who participated in it, that the council would be listening to the community as they raised their concerns, which they did in significant numbers. And that ought to be reflected all the way through any discussion of the Golden Mile, not next we're going to think about engaging the community in it. That is entirely the wrong way round. And similarly, having these two projects not very clearly linked, as Guy suggests, I'm not too sure about the thoroughfare, but I get the point, and certainly as far as the Golden Mile and GSK is concerned, it is essential that the link back to Brentford is established and strengthened. Because otherwise, you'd have a new development sucking up and enjoying Boston Manor Park, and the rest of us here in the rest of the town denuded of green space, etc., because it's being used by others and being dedicated to others. So that's just one point. Community involvement should never, ever be an afterthought. And I'm afraid you did not assure me that the council gives one hoot of I was about to swear, of a thing about what the community actually thinks about this project and this area, and that's entirely wrong. And the other thing, I was actually going to raise it on the action plan, inverted commas. which is the point that was made at the last meeting, and I'm going to make it again, is you are completely wrong about SIL. Your definition of it is at the behest of the council, utter and complete rubbish. Strategic SIL is to be spent on the priorities of the council within the borough. Absolutely. Nobody's disputing that. But Julie's not talking about strategic skill. We would let you do whatever you like with the strategic SIL if we saw any of the neighbourhood SIL. And the neighbourhood SIL has to be spent in consultation with the engagement of, and with the consent of local residents, because that money, 15% of everything connected from every development in Brentford, is owed to and has to be spent in law in Brentford. And you are not doing that.
Can we calm down a little bit?
So let us be quite clear.
Lower it a little
I'm going
bit.
to get legalistic now, Chair.
There's no need to be
So let us
aggressive.
be quite clear. I would like to see a very clear report at the next area forum of this body, which clearly identifies on what legal grounds you think you can take the neighbourhood SIL that is meant to be spent in this part of town, and why are you spending it everywhere else? We would be perfectly happy with a fair allocation of it, never mind the whole of it, which is what we are entitled to, 15% to be spent in Brentford, the relevant area.
Right, we'll go to the officers for a reply.
And just
Thanks,
to be
Mr.
clear,
Denison.
just to assist in terms of her
Thank you,
research,
Councillor.
go and have a look at the community infrastructure
We have two
levy
residents
regulations
that would like to
2010.
speak as well.
Look at regulation 59F1 and 2. Also look at the clear definition of what the relevant area is. The relevant area is not for neighbourhood SIL, the whole of the borough.
Councillor
It is
Denison,
this area.
Councillor
And
Denison,
say so in
Councillor
planning policy
Denison,
guidance,
as
paragraph
chair, I'm asking you to
145,
stop.
2019. Go and read it and come back and tell us again why you think you can spend it somewhere else.
If we could just speak to the gentleman in the back, please. Thank you.
Very quick. My complaint is probably a complaint that's been complained about a lot, so I'm going to be brief. It's the weeds and the trees as you
Okay,
come.
excuse me, sir. We can discuss this in the open forum. This part now is with regards to the presentation we just had. Happy to listen to your.
This is my first time here, so
No
I don't
problem.
know how
We're
things
happy
work.
to listen to your concern.
My
a little
apologies.
later.
Chair, should I
Thank
just
you.
respond to Councillor Denison quickly?
Yes, certainly.
Yeah. By no means was I in any way suggesting that the neighbourhood SIL will not be spent or targeting the neighbourhoods. I wanted to give a strategic overview of how the council will operate its SIL and its section 106 coming from these huge and large scale developments. I wasn't going into planning policy at all or getting into that granularity, and I absolutely take on board what you're saying, that you would like us to come back to the next one and report as to how we will be targeting and making sure that the best outcomes are from a neighbourhood approach. Absolutely understand that, and we will come back and make sure that you are all integrated into the thinking of how monies are spent and how they are prioritised. You know, there's no question that, was it Julie who made that point? Those are really, really great points that were made, and the person at the back who talked about section 106, that's really, really key to the council. So I absolutely understand. Only when I was talking about strategic. So.
Only talking about it. You made no reference whatsoever to neighbourhood. And at the last area forum, I was districted all. It's in the minutes, paragraph 5 or item 5. It says in the minutes that I was corrected by the chair and the experts at the council about what neighbourhood could be spent on, and they are completely wrong.
Okay, well, again, really, we want to work with you, so really happy to take that on board, really happy to talk to the local planning authority so that you have an expert here that can go into those terms and those regulations with you to satisfy. You know, you're clearly very knowledgeable, and we want to make sure that you feel very much integrated into the plans here. But I'm not here to talk about section 106, and I'm not here to talk about SIL. I'm really here to talk to you about what we're doing around the work and the work streams flowing from the Golden Mile work, and we really want to take your views on board. And I can understand if you've had years and years of consultation where you feel what's being integrated into our work and our priorities isn't tangible, we take that on board. Our residents and our councillors are incredibly important, and nothing works without the backing. So really want to say that. I'm really sorry you got heated up. We will absolutely take that on board and come back. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Yes.
Clarity, following Councillor Denison's point around local neighbourhood SIL, the council allocates its neighbourhood SIL through what's called the Thriving Communities Grant, which many people will have heard of in the room. And with the chair's approval, we can certainly at the next area forum bring an agenda item which clearly demonstrates how that process works. And actually, we've got some really good information about the numbers of grants and numbers of beneficiaries in each parts of the borough. So, like I say, with the chair's approval, we're happy to do that.
Sorry, Elliot, could you just introduce yourself so everyone's aware?
I'm Elliot Brooks, the Director of Communities, and the Thriving Communities Fund team sit in the Communities Division with me.
Thank you. Okay, next person.
There are lots of exciting projects at Hudson Place, Hanley, and up at the new studios, all along the Golden Mile. My concern is how they're all integrated and how they all work together. I mean, one of the key things about that is obviously transport, roads and things like that. I have absolutely no confidence in Transport for London in putting any of this together. We've already seen this on the Ealing Road and A4 and other things, which they're totally ignoring any of the interests of the people of the borough and live round about. I mean, my feeling is, unless you actually get Transport for London actually sitting on the table here with you, it is actually pointless. You're never, ever going to get the integration you need. My previous discussion, I've spoken to people, things like the orbital thing, they're all maybe nice to have if
excuse me, sir.
Got from the GLA. How do you get Transport for London to the table?
So that's the next agenda item, so I'm sure Rob will be able to answer that question.
No, it isn't. I think it's part of development, not now. I mean, there are two issues. There's the incompetence in Transport for London now. The question is, how do we get them into the Golden Mile and the development?
Yeah.
And I think, there are two different issues.
You're right, but probably the best person to answer that really good question is Rob, who's going to speak next, unless you guys want to quickly.
I mean, we mentioned earlier the Golden Mile Developers Forum that's coming forward, and I think the council has a seat at that table, and we want the community to get involved in that in the future. But with that collective, I think, comes a very strong lobbying voice to TfL, bringing them to the table as well. Some of the developers that are on this particular forum were very closely involved in the Nine Elms development. People have different views on what's happened at Nine Elms, but they certainly have had transport improvements as a result of that collective voice that came forward, and perhaps something similar can happen on the Golden Mile.
I will just say this, that so much of the work that we're doing on the Golden Mile is about addressing the severance of the highway and the connectivity and the issues around that. And so Rob will talk to you a little bit about where we are and our position on the WLO, but it is very much an open stakeholder invitation to make sure that Highways England and TfL are very much part of the integral discussions here. And we're really holding their feet to the fire and making sure that they're at the table at our forums and making sure that they're integrated in terms of their 5, 10, 15-year plans as we work this through.
Thank you, and thank you for your presentation. I'd like to now move on with the agenda and ask Rob to come up and to discuss the transport and infrastructure, if you don't mind.
I started off the debate. Just quickly.
Quickly, Julie.
This is just going on the Thrive. Yes, I brought up about social value, but the Thrive grant was brought in because Brentford had so much money through the regenerations. Well, we've lost out over the years. Even now, if we put in for a bid, you have to sign your life away to get any money back for £1,000. It is so hard for a small group who might not be constituted to get any funding. Well, to be honest, if you live in Brentford, you should be entitled to it. The money is going everywhere, but it's not coming here. So I do understand, and I was there, I disagreed about the Thrive, because I think the people have put up with a lot of disruptions over the years in Brentford, but we're not benefiting. Everywhere else is getting it. We wanted a bus route. We're still waiting to this day for a new bus route, and that never come, and that was promised under Section 106 money.
Thank you, Julie. If I'd just like to ask Rob now if you would like to do your presentation. Thank you.
Turn the microphone on. Sorry, yes, I'm Rob Heslop, Head of Transport Planning and Road Safety. Let me see if this works. So I've got, I'll try and keep this brief because I suspect there's probably quite a lot of questions that people have about transport. So I'll just try and keep this brief. I've got a very quick update on things that we're doing as the council, probably linking quite heavily with what Tom and Sharma and Rob were talking about. I've got a very quick update on National Highways works, and then I've got just an update from following on from TfL, who were at the last meeting. They promised some updates, so they can't be here tonight. So I'm going to report back what they've said. So just following on from what my colleagues were saying about the Golden Mile and transport in particular, we have, as my team in particular, have been looking at transport in Golden Mile for quite some time, but now working together with the regeneration team. One of the key things that we are looking at is the West London Orbital, which I mentioned, which, as it says up there, is it's a connection on the existing railway line, basically from Hounslow up through Kew Bridge, and then up to North West London. It is in addition to the South Western Railway. It would be just a new connection, and one of the key things really that we're looking at is a new station at Lionel Road. So Sharma, I think, mentioned the Sega site, which has recently went through planning committee, been approved at planning committee. One of the key things that we've secured as part of that development is safeguarding of land for a new station, which will link Hounslow and Brentford and Syon Lane up to North West London. The idea is that hopefully it will, which is one of the key things we've heard time and time again, is the problems with the north-south links, particularly around Brentford. So we see as a big benefit. And that's an ongoing project. TfL are leading on that in conjunction with all the boroughs in West and North West London. So hopefully that will be more work coming forward on that in the next sort of 12 months or so. I'll come back. I know there were some other questions that were raised from the previous presentation. I'll just run through my presentation. I'll come back if that's okay, and then hopefully have some time for questions or comments. Just wanted to report back on National Highways works. I know I've heard a lot of concern about this, so fully aware of people are complaining about this, and probably quite rightly so, and the impact it's been having. The latest information we've been given by National Highways is that the works are due to complete by end of November. Working on some of the concrete pillars and structural work on those. So this is a timetable, the latest timetable that we've been given. So this week, A4 will be closed each night in both directions between Boston Manor Road and Ealing Road. The H91 bus will still run, but will be escorted through the closures. And there will be diversion routes in place. From next week until the end of November, the Lane 3 will be closed permanently, 24 hours a day. And the Windmill Road crossing over the A4 will be closed to vehicles. There will be pedestrian crossing available, as it says on the slide. So it will still be possible to cross the A4 at that point, the duration of the works. So bus diversions in place. E2 following a diversion along Windmill Road until the end of November. Buses towards Brentford missing stops at Orchard Road and Boston Manor Road. Buses towards Greenford will be diverted via the A4, but no stops would be missed. So on this slide I have the contact information for National Highways. If anyone has any complaints, concerns, any comments, please contact National Highways. Equally, you can contact through us, and I'm happy to pass on any comments to them. So, as I said, at the last area forum, TfL, Joan from TfL came and answered questions. There were some questions that she couldn't answer and said she would take away. So, again, I'm just going to report back on answers to those questions. There's a question about Piccadilly Line trains, so they will start operating in the second half of 2026, offering more capacity and hopefully more comfort. There was a question about bus stop N on Boston Manor Road and a leaky roof. TfL have told us that should be fixed by the 15th of September, which is today. I will go and, if anyone knows whether that's been fixed or not, I'd be most interested in that, but I will go and have a look on the way home after this tonight, just to see, especially as it's been raining. 65 bus route, and I know there's been a lot of concern about bus route, and particularly curtailing short at the Great West Road rather than continuing to Ealing Broadway and all the associated problems that has because there are no alternative services. TfL have told us that a temporary schedule has been introduced by the bus operator, which gives more time for the drivers for the buses to run the route. We did raise this as well with TfL, and the bus operator came back and said that I think the question was raised, why can't the curtailments take place at the other end of the route in Kingston? So we have asked them, they are aware of that, and they have said that they will do that whenever possible, but it's not always possible, and I think that's because of driver changes and driver time that they have to change. But again, we're happy to feed back anything back to TfL on that, because I know it's still a concern. It is something that we do raise with them a lot. So again, two of the bus comments here about the bus stops on the northern end of Commerce Road. I believe those have now been installed, so hopefully that answers that query. And again, the 235 bus service, similar to the 65, frequently terminates at Bush Corner, terminates early. So again, TfL have, or the bus company have introduced a temporary schedule for that hopefully means that they don't have to do that so often. But again, if it continues to have problems, please do let us know. Oh, sorry, I was a slide behind. Apologies for that. There was a question about bus stop bypasses. I'll paraphrase as TfL did do a review of bus safety at bus stop bypasses. Identified there were only 6 recorded pedestrian collisions in London as part of that study. But they do acknowledge that there are design inconsistencies, and we'll be working with boroughs to ensure consistent designs are installed. And I know that the government have introduced a pause on certain types of bus stop bypasses where the cycle lane goes in front of the bus stop. So that should be paused, but there's a lot of work, I think, going on behind the scenes on safety, because I know it's been raised on more than one occasion. And then there's a question, just to answer a question on fare evasion. I won't read through all of that, but they paraphrase TfL again are doing a lot of work on fare evasion. Then finally there was a question about the design of cycleway 9 at Ferry Lane. I don't recall myself the exact detail, but the answer, TfL, I think it was to do with cyclists approaching from both directions and safety. So TfL have said that the design of cycleway 9 along the most of Brentford High Street is that it's on both sides of the road, so cyclists will be in the same direction as traffic. So there shouldn't be that confusion of having to look left and right for cyclists and then looking for traffic as well. But all of these designs go through a road safety audit process to make sure they are as safe as possible. So that was my last update, and if anyone has any follow-up on any of that, please let me know. I'm a messenger, so I'm happy to feedback. Do you want to take any questions, or do you want to come back on a couple of points that were raised? Points that were raised, yeah. I think there was questions about the H91 and the link to Hatton Cross. So as part of the work that we're doing with colleagues in the regeneration team, they mentioned there's a transport study that's been undertaken. We know through our engagement work on the transport strategy that we did last year that public transport is number one priority for a lot of people. We are hoping to follow up our work on the transport strategy with a public transport plan where we want to look in much more detail at where there are gaps in the network or where the services could be better. So that's something that we don't want to repeat. I think Rob said there's been a lot of engagement and consultation fatigue, so we don't want to repeat what people have told us, but we do want to know a bit more detail about where there are those gaps. So that is work that we're doing, and it will feed into the work on the Golden Mile. I think Councillor Lambert mentioned connections across the A4. Equally, again, that is something that we're very conscious of, something that we're looking at. We have been working with developers. I think there was a question about integration with developments along the A4. We do work very closely with TfL colleagues on improvements, the mitigation measures that are needed. So for the Tesco and the home base, for example, we've secured improvements to the pedestrian crossings at Gillette Corner. We've also secured funding for improvements to the cycle routes along the A4 there. With the Sega site, we've secured in the Section 106 agreement there, there'll be an improvement to the pedestrian crossing at Lionel Road South. And for further along by the Chiswick roundabout, for the development of the B&Q site, again, we've secured funding for feasibility and implementation of pedestrian crossing there. And we're looking at exactly the same thing at GSK and any other development that comes along, because we are aware of the issues about crossing the A4 in particular and linking down into Brentford. I think that was it. Apologies if I have missed anything, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
We'll go to the floor now, Christopher. This gentleman here.
Hi. You mentioned one sentence about cycling along the A4. As a regular cyclist, it is the death trap along there, because you go along on poorly maintained cycle tracks with broken glass and weeds and bumps. Then you're thrown into, say, Ealing Road roundabout, where drivers are not expecting you as a cyclist to be going onto the road, but you're forced onto the road. There are no down ramps, there's no indication. The drivers are not warned that cyclists will be coming onto the road, and that applies at most of the junctions, that the driver's not expecting cyclists to suddenly be on the tarmac. Other problems you have at the bus stop where the old home base site used to be, the pavement is very narrow and there's a bus stop. So as a cyclist, you have a choice of either cycling through people waiting for the bus or going onto the tarmac again and risking your life. Particularly, it's a very sharp left turn, drivers coming in at 40, not expecting cyclists to suddenly be on the tarmac. And if you're trying to encourage people to come down from Skye and from GSK and commute down to the high street, because cycling is a very obvious way for those people to get down to Brentford High Street, you need to make that safe, particularly for slightly more novice cyclists. Even as experienced cyclists, I do not like that way. I'd much rather go along Brentford High Street and go up the main cycleway, even though it's got a few flaws in it. So that's my problem, is that cyclists are just left out, hung out to die there, basically. Thank you.
Yeah, no, we're aware of the issues with the particularly the maintenance of the cycle tracks along the A4. That is something we have raised with TfL. We continuously raise with TfL. Hopefully, as part of some of the mitigation of some of these developments, we will start to see improvements. TfL are well aware of the cycling, particularly cycling through bus stops where you are thrown back onto the carriageway. That again, that is something that we have raised with them. They are aware of that. We want them to. They did have plans to take out the lay-bys, so the buses stopping on carriageway, which would improve pedestrian and cycle safety. So that is something that we are aware of.
I think it's also important to talk to real-world cyclists rather than just getting planning officers doing it, because there are real implications about people are cycling there. They're aware of the real dangers, so it does need to be. The consultation is very important to get a safe solution. Thanks.
Yeah, I can assure you that we are all real cyclists, and we do cycle along the A4. There are the same bits as you hate, I hate. So yeah, it's not just planning officers looking at this, but we do look at that from a transport perspective, and particularly from promoting active travel.
Okay, gentleman in the purple jacket.
Hi. Regarding the Cycleway 9 development, over a year ago there was a survey about the extension of the cycle lanes from Brentford High Street up to Syon Lane, and there's been nothing since then. And obviously there's been a lot of roadworks going on in Brentford High Street lately, a lot of digging up and disruption, and this extension is yet to even start. So is there an update on when that next phase of work is due to begin?
So my understanding is that TfL will be looking at drawing up detailed designs for that next section, and I believe that the intention would be to consult next summer. So it is moving on. There's been a couple of complex locations to sort out, but that is moving forward.
Yes, please.
Thank you very much. Re the 65 bus route, I'm delighted to hear that things are happening. Do you know what these changes to the schedules are? Because I don't think there's been... You mentioned the 30th of August as a date when something has happened from, I think, in your presentation. It's been absolutely shocking in the last couple of weeks. It certainly hasn't got any better. I know it's not been helped in this last week by tube strikes, and it hasn't been helped by the fact that the 65 bus route's been involved in strikes of its own on Fridays and Saturdays, or Thursdays and Fridays for a couple of weeks. But can you throw any light on what these improvements are? Thank you.
I don't have that information off my head, top of my head, but I will ask TfL that question. The only information they gave us was that the schedule's been changed so that it would improve or maintain. I wouldn't say improve. Maintain reliability.
Sorry, this lady here.
I like to...
If you could wait for the microphone, thank you.
I live in Boston Manor Road near the station. There is no lift in Boston Manor Station, and so for me to take a bus from Acton Town, I had to take two buses, E3 and E8. Why London Transport doesn't put a lift, Boston Manor Station? We need that.
Yeah, so there is obviously from my perspective, all the stations in our borough to be fully accessible, and we are doing some work on what's needed at each of the stations in the borough. TfL are looking at providing step-free access to stations. there is a programme. Obviously, it's very expensive, and they have a programme across the whole of London, but we are putting the case for the stations within Hounslow.
Yeah, or they can have a bus service from the Boston Manor Station to central London.
Yeah, it's not ideal. As I said, my aim is to have all stations in,
But you
in
know,
the borough to be set free.
I see some people with the prams trying to lifting the prams, carrying the to the platform. So one day, someone's going to have an accident, maybe die.
Yeah, no, again, it's something we're working on with TfL and promoting that. So.
Okay, I think sooner the better.
Yes, no, I fully agree.
Paul?
Hi there, I'm Paul Keane. I run the boat club on Ferry Lane. So I'd just be grateful for an update. Basically, we have between 400 and 500 kids that come to the site over the course of a year, and we obviously advocate that they cycle, come down and walk. The three main problems that we've been having is that obviously where they've put the bus stop in front of the entrance of Ferry Lane, it obviously causes issues, but secondly, where the cycle lanes go through Ferry Lane and the way it diverts off the actual road, I often see cars that sort of, as they drive up onto the cycle path, and obviously commuters like to get home quickly, they're not cycling at slow speeds, and then lastly, with the lay-by that is there, the cycle lane is very close to the actual lay-by, where it was obviously on the other side before, so we have to run a program where the kids go to regattas. We have a trailer that goes there and other places, and loading has become dangerous, not only for us, I've seen other people. I think you recorded 6 accidents. I've personally seen 4 myself, one of which was an infant child, and I'd be appreciative if as soon as possible we could have an update on the Ferry Lane cycle path.
Yeah, maybe if I can have a quick chat with you afterwards, and I'll note that, and we can. Yeah, I'll take that back.
Okay.
Oh, you there?
Councillor Lambert would like to speak.
Okay, I've got a few things. About cycle lane, I mean, there are 2 that are really awful. One is Windmill Road on the north side, where this is not just cycling, that's also pedestrians. There's no crossing. Cars are coming through it all the time, not so much now because it's blocked off north-south, but there's still lots of cars going through fast up there because they're heading for Ealing or whatever. The other one, which is terrible, is Capital Interface Way, which was made more dangerous when they started the development there. You can't see. People are coming out of there fast because it's a rat run and they're heading for the M4. Now, I complained when this started and somebody changed it a bit, but now it's got back to worse than it was before. You can't see anything. And I really worry there will be an accident there. I mean, I don't cycle there. I get off the cycle and walk down because it's too dangerous. The other thing that's on my list is the 235 and the 65. Both of these, Mel will remember years ago, we tried to solve the 235 problem, and Mel's suggestion was it should run to Ealing, because we couldn't get it to work, you remember, GWQ. That sort of got resolved. But what I remember then is that the 235 was the longest route on the planet, and 65 is the second longest route on the planet. So they're not really viable because all the time they can't keep to the timetable, and the drivers run out of time, so they stop halfway. So I think we should be making a concerted attempt to get those routes changed so they're split in 2 or something. My final one, and this is one for the next 50 years, and this came up on the Great West Road consultation. Having the motorway above the A4 is awful. It's been failing for 30 years. One day it will definitively fail, and the people that I talked to from whatever they're called, Connect Plus, agreed with that. Eventually we're going to have to replace it. At the moment we're replacing it in bits, and every year we lose many weeks, many months of proper use of the A4. I think we should be putting it underground, like the proposal from the Department for Transport was a few years ago, put it underground between Junction 3 and Junction 1, which would have been daft actually, because there was nothing after Junction 1. But I put that in it because that was our dream for 100, the next century of the Golden Mile should be, it's back golden with no motorway over it. But it's horrible in Brentford, horrible.
Yep, I wouldn't disagree with you, Councillor Lambert. And yeah, I think we would all love to see it buried underground. Yeah, but obviously we'll note that point. I'll take away the points again on the 235 and 65 and the bus routes. I know TfL are looking at the east-west bus routes in Hounslow, so I can't recall off the top of my head if that is one of them, but I think it is. But they are aware of the problems with the timetable because it is so long and delays, particularly at the Western End. But yeah.
Thank you, Rob. I'm mindful that the time is ticking on, and we've gone over schedule by quite some bits. If you'd like to get in contact with us, right? If we can be really quick, yeah. Okay, go on, Emma.
Because I'll get a yes or no answer. Can you, I've been incapacitated for a while, so I've not actually been able to use the station. Can you give us an update as to when the stairs and the footbridge at Kew Bridge are going to be upgraded?
So at Kew Bridge Station?
Yes.
So we know that it's part of the Access for All scheme. We know that it's been that funding has been awarded for feasibility work at Kew Bridge and Gunnersbury stations as part of that scheme. We're just waiting to hear what the timetable is for that and what actually that next stage will look like. But that is something that we've lobbied for. South West Railways have lobbied for at Kew Bridge.
Okay. Thank you, Rob.
Apologies for going over time.
No. That's fine. Okay, we're now at the point of this evening's meeting where we're going to be discussing the Area Forum Action Plan. So we discussed the action plan last meeting, and so as we continue to work to build a stronger and more connected Brentford and Syon, your ward councillors have contributed to the development of the Area Forum Action Plan, using it as a practical and community-focused tool designed to capture any good news stories from our wards, any local issues that may have been tackled successfully, any ward updates with regards to like ongoing concerns or how they're currently being addressed, and ideas for new projects or initiatives that could enhance neighbourhood life, improve services, or bring the community together. These insights and suggestions reflect the real priorities of our communities and support action that is both impactful and achievable. I will now pass you over to your local ward councillors providing their updates. So if I could just pass over to either Dan, Catherine, or Theo with the ward updates on the. Okay, yeah, you can do that as well.
So just an update on commercial properties that the council owns and in terms of letting them. 58 to 59 High Street, we have offers being received and reviewed, ongoing negotiations. In Tinton House, which is also known as the Shakespeare Block, which is also known as Block D, We've got 3 leases completed, tenants moving to opening stage. We've got 3 units with tenants to progress to fit out proposal, 1 unit, the heads of terms being agreed, and 5 units being marketed. Translation is 7 units are in different stages of getting there and 5 still to be filled. I'd also like to mention we had an excellent market on Sunday put on by Brentford Voice with the main focus just on community groups. I really enjoyed that. I found out some stuff about Brentford that I didn't know. So if that comes up again, I'd really encourage people to go for it, to attend it. And then also we've had 3 different areas where residents have complained about parking and asked us to put in a CPZ in the ward. In 2 of them, following a detailed consultation, in 2 of them we're not going to do that, and in 1 of them we are. So we're always listening, but we're wanting to understand what not just what the loudest voices are, but what are the needs, what are the priorities for the entire community. And I can let someone else cover Robin Grove Recreation Ground.
Thanks, Marina. So in order to add to what Dan said, I mean, there's obviously in the written report, there's an update on the Robin Grove Recreation Ground improvements, which was an ongoing project. Dan led the community engagement for that in 2024, and so it was brilliant to see all the new play equipment actually installed and open for use with people playing there, and a much improved environment all round for all users of the park. So that was very good to see. In terms of Dan's already spoken about stuff in the town centre. People will have noticed that 7 boats, I believe, have moved into Workhouse Dock. So those people who live on those boats, and they've moved from Town Wharf, which is being redeveloped as part of the Brentford project, and it's taken a considerable amount of time to get that move ready and smooth. In the end, it was smooth. There was quite a lot of concern from the boat dwellers. It's a big move and a big change for them, and I worked with them over a period of several months, liaising between them and Ballymore and to some extent the council, to make sure that move did go as smoothly as possible. People in Brentford will have noticed there's been a lot of roadworks over the summer. So I'd like to thank everyone for their patience while that has been ongoing. We received probably an unprecedented amount of applications for different roadworks and utility works in the Brentford area, particularly Brentford High Street, but going all the way from Bush Corner all the way along. And people will know there's still some going on at the moment. I believe Thames Water are there. Cadent have been around. There's been a large electricity cable needed to be laid for the Fairview development, and on and on. So I'd like to say a big thank you to Hounslow Highways for coordinating those works and minimising the disruption as much as possible. And I know for those of you who have suffered it, you may be thinking, what? It was terrible. It was. You know, roadworks always cause disruption, but I think thanks to the fact that they did put that coordination in place and tried to make sure also that the majority works were completed by the end of the school holidays, it could have been a lot worse than it was. So that was my other little update. Everyone will know, hopefully, that the Creative Mile Festival took place. That goes into other wards as well, so maybe one of the other ward councillors wants to pick up on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor John. Syon?
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to read, just for a little moment, an email I received. As part of the preparations for the upcoming area forum, please can I get you to contribute a short story or narrative similar to the example previously shared below that can be presented to support the Chair in delivering the action plan. To be absolutely clear, the reason why the action plan isn't a written report on your agenda is there isn't an action plan. And my view is that we shouldn't be trying to fill that void with little stories about what's going on in the various wards. We should be developing with the community an action plan around the things that the community thinks are important and that the council can do something about. And I would have thought that...
So that's what we discussed at the last meeting, Theo, and it was very, very clear, and it's in the minutes, and it is an action plan. You know, our residents do want to hear what's going on in our wards. Our residents do like to hear the good news stories that are coming on from the councillors that are in the wards and are working with our community. So, you know, yes, we did receive that email, but there are good news stories. You know, I'm sure you've got good news stories. You know, that's a good news story that you're reading out there now. You know, you've read the email.
I did enjoy Dan and Catherine's contributions, and I thought they were really useful too. But if you want an action plan, you know, it is axiomatic that you don't have a plan unless you can write it down. You can't write it down, you have not got a plan.
Right, so at this moment in time, we haven't had anyone come forward. We've asked in the last meeting, and we've asked our community, we've asked our residents to come forward with ideas for the action plan, and at this current meeting time, no one has come forward with an idea. That's correct to say? We have the Lex Talk platform. We are contactable at our surgeries. We are contactable when we are walking our wards and when we're out in the wards for our residents to come up to us and say, right, this is an idea. Can I share this with you? Can it go on the action plan? And as I said previously, I will not veto anyone's idea. If there is an idea that anyone here for Brentford and Syon Area Forum wants to share to go on the action plan, I'm quite happy to hear it and to champion it, along with the rest of the councillors here. I don't see what the issue is, to be honest with you, Theo.
Thanks, Chair. So could I suggest, therefore, for this action plan, that for the January meeting of this area forum, we have a written action plan of the things that the council are going to do. Get it from wherever you like, but I would like to suggest a number of things that should go on there.
Well, can you ask your community members what they would like? Because that's the whole idea of the action plan. It is for our residents to give us the ideas, not for us to come up with the ideas. That's the whole point of the action plan. It's community engagement. So I would now like to go forward now.
Even started. Thank you very much, Chair.
I'm sorry. I'd like to now go on to Councillor Mosley.
So you don't want any of the points I'd suggest for your action plan?
You can tell me afterwards. So, Councillor Mosley.
Tough act to follow. So, as is mentioned in the document that we've been provided with, some residents spoke about a recent uptick in dog fouling on the Haverfield estates, which has been a persistent problem according to some residents. So I can confirm that there's going to be a dedicated patrol support officer as of the end of this month with enhanced powers to issue on-the-spot fines. Getting a clap from the alderman, so that's great. And a second smaller one, but is also quite important. Some people have spoken about the issue on Mission Hall Square, where, as some people will know, there's a missing bollard, which means that people are then parking on Mission Hall Square, and that it's causing a bit of disruption, a bit of a nuisance. I went down there recently and found that not only was the previous issue the case where the bollard didn't have any locks on it, it was missing entirely and had been thrown away. So we've asked the council to investigate and come up with a more permanent solution, which will mean hopefully a reinstated bollard, but I've asked for it to have a lock on it, so that if it needs to be removed, it can be, but not by people who just wish to park there at their own discretion. That's it.
Thank you, Councillor Mosley. I have an update also within the wards, which is regarding the community garden project. So So for a good couple of years now, both with Councillor Mosley and also previously with Councillor Rees-Williams, we've been working closely with residents and also council officers to develop a new community garden at Mission Hall. And so we're pleased to now confirm that the project will officially begin on the 20th and 21st of September. And the key outcomes of this will include the installation of raised beds for use by the attendees of the Thursday's social CAF. That happens every Thursday, and also dedicated raised beds for the youth club, providing hands-on opportunity to learn about gardening and sustainability. And also a community mural will also be painted to enhance the space and reflect the local creativity. And we are hopeful of also getting a sign to say that it's Mission Hall as well, so there'll be a sign as well. And there is ongoing activities at Mission Hall. So I mentioned about the social CAF. So there is a social CAF that is community-led every Thursday from 10 to 12:45 at Mission Hall. And also at this social CAF, I'm sure that there'll be other community centres, and Judy may even have one going on at Clay Ponds that might be confirmed. And when it is, I can sort of relay that to our community. But there will be hosting a Macmillan Coffee Morning on the 25th of September, so everyone is warmly welcome to attend should they want to. So thank you. Pass it over to Brentford West now. So Emma and Guy.
Yeah, so a couple of things. One is in the thing which is about Boston Manor Park. We've had a fantastic summer of events there, including I don't often go to the theatre, but I went to the theatre there. Catherine was at the same one, watching Being Earnest, so we're very earnest about it. But it was a fantastic evening. It was really good, much better than I expected. Lovely, nice day too. Two other positive things. One is Middlesex Cricket Club have made the what used to be the GSK sports ground off Clitheroe Avenue into, not Clitheroe Avenue, Swinkham Avenue, to be the headquarters of women's cricket in Middlesex. So that's quite prestigious and it's quite important. I was invited to the first thing that we're going to open to anybody, but guess what? It's cricket. Rain stopped play before I got there, so it didn't happen. It's been postponed. The other thing that I just want to mention is, together with a number of other people, we're working to make Brentford a heritage harbour, which will be the first one in London if we succeed. We're trying to get a charity set up, which will take about 240 years until the Charities Commission find an officer to look at it. Again, I think that will be very good for the image and the sense of what Brentford is as a river and canal place. So, thank you.
Hi, I've just got an update regarding St Paul's Church. St Paul's Church in Brentford has made significant progress in its sustainability efforts with the installation of solar panels on its roof. This initiative was supported by a successful fundraising campaign, which included a £40,000 grant from the Council's Community Energy Fund, an additional £12,000 raised by the parish. To preserve the historical character of the listed building, solar slates were selected as a suitable solution. The project not only aims to reduce energy costs and lower the church's carbon footprint, but also enables the parish to reinvest savings into community support. Any surplus funds from the campaign will contribute to the creation of a community pantry at St Faith's Church in North Brentford, helping to reduce food waste and support local residents in need. The solar panel installation is now underway, reinforcing St Paul's Church role as a sustainable and community-focused institution. And there should be a slide as well where you can see the current progress being made.
If we look out that back window, we might actually... We might be able to just see him.
Okay, thank you. So as previously said, sort of the Area Forum Action Plan is your chance to help shape the future of Brentford by suggesting practical, impactful actions that can make a real difference. You can use this tool, this action plan, for ideas for new initiatives or projects in your neighbourhood, for improvement to public spaces, facilities or services, community events or activities to bring people together, solutions to local challenges or concerns. Please submit your ideas via the Area Forum Let's Talk page if you are able to. If not, you can email us or speak to your councillors or get in contact with Christopher, and we would be more than happy to bring it to the next meeting. I would like to now go on to the next. Sorry, so turn the microphone off. To go on to the next part of our agenda, which is the open forum. I am mindful that it's 9 o'clock and the meeting has gone on, and I do really appreciate your time that you've taken out today. So if I'd just like to open up to the open forum now, which is the opportunity for members of the public to address the meeting on general issues relating to the agenda and other issues that were not on the agenda. If there is any casework, please note that individual cases cannot be discussed. So, so I would like to Julie and then Martin, and then we'll go forward.
Thanks for that. Actually, this is followed on from your conversation, which I was quite surprised about. Thank you, Marina, for mentioning Calais Ponds. As far as I'm concerned, we've only got one councillor on the north side, because the other councillors never bothered to even introduce themselves, which is really downhearted considering there's an election next May. The other issue is, when we're talking about stuff, I must admit, this last article, what you talked about, what's going on, I don't know how everyone else agreed. I thought it was very interesting. It's one of the best bits of the night. So I do thank you for the information, and I think you should continue doing the roundups, because not everyone gets to know what you're up to. So I'm praising you for all the work you've done, but I'm not praising on one councillor. Thank you.
Martin.
Thank you. There are two consultations out that are joined together, the Waterman site and the police station site. There's been very little communication coming forward from the council on those proposals. I think we probably need to get to a public meeting to find out a little bit more. There's one key thing that I think is incredibly important, is that in the last communication that came out via, I think it was MySpace or something similar, My London and the BBC, and there was talk of analysis of local needs in respect of the Arts Centre. Well, I've seen no sign of that, and I think we need to have a public conversation to find out exactly what that analysis is and how it's going to work. So I would ask that we could have a public meeting very soon, please.
We can take that back, Martin, and try and get an update.
Yeah, I think we'd be happy to have a public meeting, perhaps in conjunction with Brentford Voice. You're very good at getting people in, sometimes better than we are. So let's take that conversation away and do something about it, and try and get a date in the diary.
Thank you.
Hello, you were talking about action plans, and I know between now and Christmas isn't very far, but I think it was Guy who mentioned the Christmas trees. Oh my God, I'm being filmed. The Christmas trees. Thank you, Mel. Is there any way that we can encourage Brentford to twinkle up for Christmas? We've got that wonderful, on Cliveden Road, there is 2 or 3 rather wonderful light shows that go on. But can we encourage Brentford to get really twinkly and have Christmas trees and bring it all down, and so people will come to our town and have a look? Because I think Brentford Voice and Martin organised the Christmas tree with Ballymore for a couple of years and the lighting of it. So I know I would be much happier walking around in the dark days with a few extra twinkly lights. Thank you.
So thank you. So our next forum isn't until January, but we can
bring it up now.
Yeah, so we can certainly look into that, and that is a wonderful idea. Yeah, I'm with you. Let's make Brentford twinkly.
If I may follow up on a bit more detail from one of Martin's points about the Waterman's Arts Centre, obviously that has been a fiasco over the last 20 years, and many people in Brentford are very concerned that Hounslow Arts Trust and the Waterman staff may feel that they have a right to take over the new arts centre where the old police station is. I do understand that earlier this year there was a message went out from one of the councillors saying that that contracts are being put out to tender, but I think it's very important that the public are involved in that process, have an input, because the idea that Jen Lennox may be in line to tout for that is deeply scary, bearing in mind, like Guy Lambert said to me when he was on the board of trustees of the charity there, he said, why can't we have the panto back? And they patronised him saying, oh, you wouldn't understand. So there's been an arrogant ivory tower there for the last 20 years. So can we have some assurance that this will be opened up for other providers to bid for? Thank you.
Just pass you over to Councillor Bowring.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. It is an open tender, and one of the things that is very important is we need somewhere that has kind of cutting edge artistic content, but we also need an operator that will be providing the retail stuff, the bread and butter stuff. That also goes towards financial viability. It's not just what a lot of people in Brentford want, and I agree with them, but it's ensuring that the operation is financially viable. So that is a really important priority for whoever the new operator is, and that will be a robust tender process.
Thank you, Dan. Yes.
I just want to emphasize what previous speakers said about having a consultation about all the developments. There's also the GSK building, which is going to be turned into yet another concrete jungle. And we have a lot of concrete jungles I think that we need to discuss. There are issues with carbon emissions, there are issues with overheating, there are a huge amount of issues that we do need to talk about. And I'm sure Councillor Dunn will be very keen to talk about them. Thank you.
Always happy to talk about anything you want.
Okay. Yes.
Sorry, just a quick one following up on Joanne's comments regarding Christmas. At the moment, there are no signs we're going to have a Christmas tree in Marketplace. Ballymore are putting a tree in their own space in Workhouse Dock. Last year, the council helped and funded the Christmas tree. That can't be done this year. So we will have no Christmas tree unless somebody comes forward, roughly about £2,500 to put something decent in. No. They don't have the funds this year. But it won't happen.
What would you like us not to fund instead? What would you like us not to fund instead? Listen, we will try and get a Christmas tree. I'm not committing council funds to it. We have a lot of other businesses in Brentford besides Ballymore, so we'll talk to them and see what can be done.
I'll follow you up on that, Catherine. I've already done quite a bit of outreach, so I'll communicate with you.
Thanks for the update on the Block D High Street units. It's good to hear what's happening with that. I think it's fair to say it's taken a very long time to get to this point. And a year ago, September last year, we had an update from Richard Pearce from Ballymore about plans for the Brentford project. We've had some great things open like Everyman, Holland and Barrett. It's good to get some bigger high street names in the area. However, we have had Hewson Books close after only a few months. We've got some fantastic independent businesses like Mother Rugger, Rotora, which would be a disaster if they can't survive because of the lack of footfall coming through Brentford High Street. A year on from Ballymore's presentation, there are still several empty units facing the High Street, also all the units facing Workhouse Dock. So there's a lot of lost footfall there. I think there could be a lot of potential in the area, but it seems that there's, I don't know, like a lack of urgency to move this forward. And I think there's a real risk to the independent businesses that are trying to survive in the meantime, that have kind of bravely opened up while there's not a lot going on. In the future area forum, can we get another update from Ballymore? Is there any more sort of effort being made to kind of help bring footfall to the area so that we can start to see a thriving high street again?
We can get an update for January, yes. Yeah, we could possibly invite Ballymore back as well. Is that what you wanted? Sorry.
Sorry, is there anything more about potential with bringing footfall to the area, or how soon we might see more developments kind of roll out? Do we know anything more at this point, or we're just waiting for an update from Ballymore?
When you said more developments roll out, what did you mean, Norm?
There's a lot of, as I said before, still a lot of empty units sitting there, and it's basically the independent shops that I'm concerned about. I know there's a lot of growing concern in the community about how they're going to survive, particularly when we know Hewson Books had to close after only a few months. So it's just to know, is there any other kind of initiatives about things that can bring footfall to the area as well?
Absolutely. The first thing to say is I completely agree with you. We've got some great local businesses, but they do need more footfall. I think it's also worth noting that the context we look at that against is that retail in the United Kingdom is massively suffering because of people like me buying stuff online, that whole landscape has changed. I know Ballymore are working really hard to try and fill those spaces. It's not easy. And likewise in Tinton House, Block D, Shakespeare Block, the council officers, councillors, cabinet members are working really hard to fill them. As you may know, we went for a local first option first. Two of the bigger units at the front of Tinton House, they're ones we couldn't fill with local businesses. They're the largest, they're the most prominent, and as a result, they're the most expensive. So we are now talking to national chains about filling those. I can't give you any names, but I can say we're talking to some significant organisations, ones that I think the people of Brentford would love to see. So you're right, it's difficult, but we're pushing hard on it, and I know Ballymore are too.
Yes.
Just a quick one, I think, please. Do we know what's happening with Occupation Lane, which was closed for some works that were a bit of a mystery? And I think the barriers are still in place, but the works seem to have finished. And one of the reasons I'm raising it is that some people will know there's extensive gasworks going on in Claypons Avenue at the moment, and three-way traffic lights and whatever. It just would have been really helpful if Occupation Lane had, I understand all about the closure and the history, but I have raised this before, if it could have been a system so that in times of need, it could have been opened up as an escape route, if you like, just while these sorts of works are going on. But I just wondered if you knew what's happening at the moment. Julie might know. Thank you.
So with regards to Occupation Lane, that's closed. That's an LTN. So that's with. And Catherine, if you could help me out, because it was done before my time, that's not going to be unopened for vehicles.
Sorry, that wasn't the point. It's been it's been close to everything because of works that's been going on, and there are barriers across the end of at South Ealing Road, which I think are still there.
Okay, if
I'm just wondering
Julie can give
what's
an update,
happening.
that'd be brilliant. I'm in the ward tomorrow seeing Julie as well, so I can see for myself. But thank you.
The latest update on Occupation Lane is Ealing has now tarmacked it. It now belongs to Ealing, the road, even though they're moaning about the wall being dangerous on Hounslow side. And they're doing it as a zigzag way, and they're going to get an artist to draw little pictures on the ground so kids can go and play on it. And I think that's the biggest waste of money. I don't know where it's come from, but Hounslow did agree to it as well.
Okay, well, I can find out about that as to whether or not it's Ealing's money or not. Because if it's on Ealing's side, then it's down to them to do with what they've consulted on. Martin, and that'll be our final question for the open forum this evening.
I'll give you a little bit of an update on Ballymore. I've recently met with the new project director there in terms of retail. They've opened up conversations again with Santa Maria Pizza, which we're going to take the unit opposite Sam's, and the building next, the section next to it. They're in conversation with a pub chain, but they said they'll come, but not this year. They're on the books for next year. So those units will get occupied, hopefully within the next 12 months. Ballymore are also in conversations with the council's retail people as well about Block D. So hopefully they're interested to see what's coming forward there. So there's no kind of overlap and it's a better offering. So there are things happening. Quite encouraging. The new project director is very active and seems to want to do a lot. So heading in the right direction.
Thank you. So you've heard me discuss quite a few times and talk about tonight about the Let's Talk platform. So it's the sharing, the Let's Talk platform throughout on your chairs, I believe. There's some forms, feedback forms, and there is also a QR code as well. And you can use the QR code to see the area forum updates and for feedback. And if I could please ask you to please use the tool to fill out the online feedback form and the sheets that are on your chair. I'd just like to talk about the minutes of the meeting held on the 14th of July 25, if they are agreed.
Agreed.
Thank you. And if there's any matters arising, there are no matters arising that I'm aware of, and there is no urgent business. The date of our next scheduled meeting is the 31st of January 2026, and that's going to absolutely whiz by. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the councillors around the table this evening, but most importantly, to thank you for coming and spending your evening with me, and safe journey home. Thank you.